So Dillon, you had this film, The Last Divide.
Yep.
Then you decided to make a television series.
Kind of.
Kind of? What do you mean kind of?
It's kind of the story, sure. Once we made the movie, because I did have like a 3-part plan, I kind of wanted to make a trilogy out of it. I pestered Winterlight and Paul Kimball and Ron Foley McDonald monthly, I think. And there's no bite for a very long time. But I didn't stop annoying them. So eventually I was invited to be part of Cinema 902 Season 2. And the idea was like, okay, you can make the sequel through the same process that we made the first one. And I was like, oh, holy crap, here we go. It evolved over time where the more we talked, the more discussions we had about the world, we realized this is kind of a possible franchisable sort of thing. Like we could go bigger with this, and you know, we're in this golden age of television. Like, what if it was a series? Like Paul said, like, would you make a TV series? Like, yeah, because not only is that like more content, but it's also triple the content. Like the final product is 3 feature-length films worth of content, which it allowed me to expand tenfold. So yeah, it wasn't quite, let's go make the sequel. It was a bit of a, hey. I got something ready. I don't know if you want to do it.
That is amazing. So what was the return to The Last Divide? What was that like for you? Because it would have been how many years later? It
would have been, I think we got it approved in late 2019 or early 2020. So it was about a year, 2 years of difference between like once we delivered the movie and it aired to this becoming a thing. It evolved a lot. Like the original script for the movie sequel is vastly different than what kind of we got. We had kind of, you know, circumstantial stuff happen where we had to pivot a little bit and try to rethink this. Phoebe was aging, believe it or not. She was 13 in the movie and now she's 17, so we got to think about that. Like we can't do, oh, it's a week later. It's like, well, no, she's you know, late teenager now. So it became this thing like, originally it was going to be 2 years, and it became 5 years, and it kind of kept going back and forth. It got delayed a full year, unfortunately, due to COVID-19. And then when COVID ramped up again in 2021, I was actually worried that this would be fully canceled. Thankfully, it wasn't. But returning to that world as a writer was exciting to me because it really allowed me to sort of be like, everything that I set up in the movie, everything that I didn't hide, like what happened with the family? What is the dynamic between Chloe and Ryan? Like, where is Ryan now? Like, now that she thinks she killed her brother, but really she didn't. Is she pissed off? Is she on the hunt? What's the deal? It was exciting because it was just opened up a whole new possibility to what the story could be. And once I threw out the sequel idea for the movie and kind of almost started from scratch in a way, it opened this whole world.
And so you did mention a little bit about the Hatfield family. So they're obviously back in this series.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that family then?
Yeah, they are everywhere they go. Chaos ensues. If you see a Hatfield coming, just leave. No, they're a very broken family. And the Hatfield home, which is a very big staple to the first episode, Anywhere But Home, it's just haunted. Like that place has so many things that have gone wrong, and the burdens are really carried by Chloe now in a big way, because she's the one holding on to everything that's going on, but also with Ryan in a way, because Ryan is still dealing with the past. The Hatfield home itself was, you could convince me that it was built specifically for this show. Like just the land, the house, the layout, everything. We had found it, when we were looking for houses, we had found a guy who was selling a property, and it was his mother's house. And she had unfortunately passed away, so it was just kind of sitting there as they were looking to sell it. And we caught him at a good time because I believe it's sold now. And when we were going up the driveway to look at it, because there's this big, long dirt driveway, and we pulled up, and I was looking, it was piss pouring raining the day we were there. And I was looking around, I was like, this, this is what I wrote, like down to the smallest detail. This is what I wrote. It's away from everything. It's a long dirt road. There's so many options. There was like 2 U-Haul trucks that were broken down in the woods, so like it looked like it was like old. It was this perfect spot, and we got so lucky because it fit it perfectly for our outdoor needs, our long driveway needs, our everything needs. It was the perfect location.
And so we talked about the Hatfield family. They're back. Are there any new characters?
Yes, there are a lot of new characters. There are some returning, which we'll talk about on another episode. One of my biggest kind of mandates for myself was I wanted to expand what we did in the movie, because the movie was very small. Like, there are not many characters, and the places they go, they kind of rewind through their own kind of Hatfield path, where now I wanted to expand, like, okay, what's outside the Hatfield walls type of thing. One of the first characters we introduced is Danielle, who is sort of a traveling kind of mailman who's delivering supplies to everybody around the area, making sure everybody's fed, and like she's a very big giving person in the community. She's played by Selena Alders, who was just the perfect Danielle. It's one of those things we talked about in the first episode. When you know, you know. Danielle nailed it. Selena nailed it. I have a hard time making difference between the two. But no, she's one of the new characters that we introduce. Obviously, later on in the episode, we introduce Kristyn LaRoche's attacker character, who I'm sure everybody hates now. I'm sorry, Kristyn. It just means you're a really good actor. Everybody wants you thrown into a river. But starting off this first episode, we wanted to kind of keep it small and not overwhelm people, just show like, okay, what would the local area look like? So that's why we showed Danielle and this attacker who just ends up wrong place, wrong time for Danielle. Sorry, guys.
And so you're talking about this character, Danielle, and Danielle is kind of important to Chloe.
Yeah, hugely, yeah.
She helps her. I don't want to give it. I mean, I guess we just watched
totally
it.
Okay,
like,
spoilers.
Danielle is so gone.
Dead. Doorknob.
She's
gone.
like super dead,
Yeah.
but that is what really like catapults Chloe into finally leaving her home.
Yeah, well, there's a big struggle with her, right? Because Chloe's the last remaining sort of kind of stronghold to normal life. Like, this is the last little bit. She maintains it, the house, like she keeps it clean, she keeps everything organized, she keeps it as close to like she can as possible to the old life, aside from turning the living room into a kind of her bedroom area. But because her brother's away, and because, you know, she hasn't talked to Ryan, like she is kind of the last remaining Hatfield, so she struggles with that. But she's also haunted by the past, and she's having this really hard time getting out that door or going down that driveway. One of my favorite scenes in the episode is when she's walking down the path and she goes about 3 times back and forth and just can't get past that one spot. But that episode is very clearly about what will cause her to leave. And unfortunately, we had to kill a very beloved character to do it. But, sorry, it worked. I feel bad. Everybody that's read the scripture, watched Shirley, they'll text me halfway through the week. I love this character, Danielle. I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm like,
You're like, oh,
yeah,
cool.
text me when you're done. Because,
So we have Chloe in it, and you mentioned Chloe's sister, Ryan. So Ryan is back in.
Yes, the older sister.
Would you call her a villain?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yes.
So we've got her as the main villain.
Sharing role, maybe, with another new face that we introduced. Yeah, so Ryan's back, and she has not changed much. If nothing else, she's become more rabid. We find her, like, scavenging for anything. She beats the hell out of Dylan Robbins' character, John, who is part of a bigger group. But then we're introduced to what I would call the villain, Hanlon Kane, played by Nye Pasco.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. When we were doing the audition process, because COVID was going on, we had to do all kind of self-tapes. When he sent his in, there was one line that will happen later on in an episode. It doesn't quite spoil, but you'll kind of know the context once you see it. There's a line where he just says, "Yes, I do," and that was the scene that we used for the audition. Holy crap! The second he said it, that's Hanlon Kane. Nobody else is going to be this good. Hanlon Kane.
There's something so unsettling about him because I think too, like where other villains sometimes are are very aggressive or are very like loud and like whatever. He's done this character
Softer.
instead
Yeah.
is so reserved, and it's scarier because
then when he snaps, no spoilers, but when he snaps, it means something. Yeah.
yes.
He's got it's amazing because he just lets John be the kind of like unleashed hound, just to be the one that barks a lot, and he stands back. It's this perfect thing because he's got motivations that we'll uncover as it goes, but you know, his soft, helpful demeanor may be not quite as honest as it seems.
So in this episode as well, there is this very hard, I'll get sad talking about it, but Chloe's parents are passed.
Yep.
And
Murdered by Ryan.
murdered by
Right.
Ryan, her sister, which is like an outrageous, I can't even fathom that. And there's this scene where Chloe is talking to her mother at her grave, and it's a really emotional it shows like she's so distraught, and she's talking to her mom, and you can tell that it's like she's given up or something. Like I don't know. Like it's just such a moving scene, and I would love to ask you about it. Like tell me about what that was like.
One of the biggest things of the show was kind of the ghost of the past will always catch up with you, right? Like no matter how many times you try and ignore it, no matter how many times you try and dodge the issue, your past will catch up to you no matter what. And this is kind of part of that, where I always took it as that she really hadn't done this. Like she made the graves herself because, you know, and as a young kid, like her and Seth would have had to take the bodies and bury them. Like it's a very big and hard thing. But I don't think she's ever had that conversation. I don't think she's ever sat down because I don't think she wanted to face that past. Like as strong as she is and as giving as she is, I think she struggles with her family. And I think that's why she helps so many other people, because she knows that like my family's kind of unfixable in a way. So when she sits down and talks to her mother, it is a very like, hey mom, for the first time, it's been a real long time. Like here's an honest thing. She reaches out, she wants help. She lets her know about, you know, Seth and Sarah and kind of like a little bit of the bits and pieces of the movie. Because what I wanted to do was, in that first episode, I wanted to explain everything that was important from the movie to carry over, but to explain to a new audience. So like, you don't necessarily have to watch the movie. You should on Eastlink Community TV. But if you didn't, you would still get the information that you need from the movie for the show. And that kind of scene played into that very well. But what it also did is it teases a bigger aspect of the show, which is Tia's character, Sarah, because it's the first time we hear mention of Sarah. And then that kind of motivates Chloe to go, because she's thinking about Sarah and being like, you know, I bet she helped so many people. What am I doing? Kind of that internal struggling. Well, what am I doing sitting here? I can do this. That's when she grabs her bag, she tries to leave, and she can't. And then she gives up and says, you know what, I guess this is life. I'm going to stay here. And she's kind of just gives up fully. But it is like a lot of things go on in that. And you can see that, you know, Chloe comes from having a full-on anxiety attack to talking to her dead mother and then making the choice to leave and not being able to do it. So there's a lot of just like emotional hit after emotional hit. And I mean, Phoebe, my God. Act bad once, please.
Try.
Just once.
Just try to.
I don't think she can. I don't think it's in her.
No, it's such, and what I love too is that when you and I, when we talk about the movie, you kept referring to Chloe's character as someone who like was forced to be mature.
Yep.
She was forced to be older than she was. And then so for this very first episode, to just show her being so vulnerable
Yeah.
and to be so alone and it's devastating.
And I wanted to be claustrophobic too, right? Like not necessarily within the walls of the house, but more so that everywhere she's turning, she's reminded of something that's stressing her out. Like when she goes, she's in the living room when she's having an anxiety attack, so she moves to the kitchen. The kitchen, she sees the bag, she realizes she can't leave, she goes outside. Outside, she sees the mother's grave, she sits down, she talks to her, realizes she needs to go, she grabs the bag, she goes down the driveway, can't do it. Like it's everything everywhere is causing her pain and anxiety, like no matter where she turns. And it was very important to show that, because you're right, she is very vulnerable in this. The most vulnerable I think we've seen her yet. And it is a very Chloe-centered episode. And it's her on her own a lot.
And the characters of Chloe and Danielle, they have a very special relationship
in
in this episode.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Oh, totally, yeah. I wanted Danielle to be kind of the hope in her life and Chloe's life. Like there's, obviously things aren't back to normal. They might never go back to normal, but there's this one person in the community like helping, like look for the helpers type of thing. There are moments where it's like, you know, we see that they're kind of the same people. Like Danielle has a line, you know, when the world ends when you're 13, you don't have that much time for personality to develop, and they agree. So they're very similar in that. But I also wanted Danielle to be the possibility of Chloe's future, right? Like there's a hopeful nature there. When they're done talking and they're done having that poker night and they decide to talk outside and stuff, and Danielle says like, maybe this isn't the end, and Chloe agrees. For the first time, she's like laughing genuinely and smiling genuinely. Danielle was like that hopeful look that, you know what, I couldn't leave. I can't let this house go, and I can't let the memories and the connection to the family go, but maybe this will work, maybe. And then unfortunately, Danielle does not make it to the end of the episode, and then, yeah, it's a very special relationship, and there's so much on both sides, where it's like they both need somebody, and they both appreciate each other, and they both love each other, and what the future could have been, I guess. So one thing I feel bad about writing, it was necessary because we needed Chloe to have a reason to leave, but every time I read it, I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have killed Danielle.
Especially because, correct me if I'm wrong, but and maybe I'm reading into this, it seemed like there was a little spark there.
I think, yeah, I would call it a spark. Yeah, I think there's a little something between them.
So going back to Hanlon Kane, the
Yeah.
scariest villain that I've ever seen in my life.
He's kind of my favorite, actually.
He's
Yeah.
my favorite, but I can't. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. He's got this little like ragtag group of
Misfits and leftovers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah,
Tell
it
us
is.
about that group.
They, originally in the script, there's one more. There's Thane, the character Thane. There's going to be kind of three, let's call them ruffians, the one that did all the dirty work, and then there's John, his kind of right-hand man. But Thane felt like he was taking up too much of what another character could be, so we kind of warped him into both Kieran and Declan, so Rory and Simon's character. But John is Hanlon's right-hand man, played by Dillon Robbins. He's the one that is a little spicy, I think. He's a little, let's call it impatient and violent tendencies, and probably the kind of guy that's going to go to a bar for the specific reason to kick somebody's ass or steal a girl, that type of thing. That's his character. Kieran and Declan are, eventually they kind of become a slightly comedic character, but for this they are very serious, except for the one moment which made us all laugh on set, when Hanlon says, everybody give a nice warm welcome to Ryan, and in unison, like minions, they're just like,
Welcome, Ryan.
it's the most terrifying thing.
Ryan doesn't necessarily like join the group, but she runs into them
Yep.
and ends up kind of like staying with them a little bit.
Yep.
So Ryan and Ryan's character since The Last Divide is different, but she, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like she's kind of still stuck in the past.
Oh, 100%.
A little bit.
She is, you know, we see a moment in this story that is, it's kind of a continuation of the original movie, where we see this character of Ryan, we kind of slowly pan over and we see that she's wearing the original green shirt and that she's got blood going on. So that is 5 minutes after she kills one of her minions, Danny, in the original film. And she's sitting there contemplating like, what to do next. Like that is the immediate aftermath of that situation. And then we cut to now, and she's sitting next to a pond, the same blood coming down, like, cool, I've gotten nowhere. So she's stuck in the past, you know, both physically and mentally. She just can't get past her own violent hopes and dreams, to put it lightly. She wants to take out those who wronged her. And in the movie, she kind of gave Chloe a chance, like, you know, we can do this together. Chloe wasn't having any of it, so now Chloe's dead to her. So now there is this thing. But I also think there's also a bit of fear. We don't really see it in this episode. I think there's a bit of fear, too, for the reason that Ryan hasn't found Chloe after 5 years is that I don't think Ryan wants to go to the Hatfield home. Because there is also a lot of, as we'll kind of uncover throughout the series, there's a lot of haunted memories there, and she just doesn't want to see it. So could Ryan, in theory, show up and take out Chloe whenever she wants? Yes, but I think there is that mental barrier there. Like, I don't know, as Ryan, I don't know if she can handle going back to that spot.
And so you're right, like talking about how both characters, you know, stuck in their past. So what is it finally, what is like Chloe's final straw that kind of finally gets her
through the door and out? Yeah, it's Danielle dying. I think that one last bit of hope that she had with Danielle and seeing this person that is like going out of her way to feed the community and everything like that, and seeing somebody who understands the weight of what Chloe is trying to do and what Danielle is trying to do. She sees that good in the world. Like, okay, you know, this isn't what I wanted. Nobody wanted this. We all want a hot shower. We all want to watch TV when we go to bed. Like, it's just not going to happen because there's no power. But I think Chloe finally sees that, you know, yes, I've been anxious about leaving, but maybe I don't have to leave. Maybe this can work. And then the violent world comes up again, and the attacker kills Danielle. And that is the final straw, because she has nothing left. Now she has nothing left. She has zero reason to be there, because now there's another death that has happened near the Hatfield family home that she has to think about all the time. So she needs to, very impulse space, but she needs to get out of there. She's not thinking about it. Like when she goes, she doesn't stop. She doesn't think, she bolts out of there. But her final straw is losing like her best friend in the whole world, her only friend in the whole world, and having that become so ingrained within the Hatfield home land. So yeah.
heavy?
A little bit, yeah.
Little bit heavy.
Just a tiny bit.
Little heavy. Yeah. No, you're right. It's finally she has.
Yeah.
The final straw is like she has no other options. She has to go.
Has to, because
to.
what does she have left anymore, right? It's just her own head, and I also don't think Chloe trusts her own mind at that point. Like I think there's like, now I have nothing, and I don't know if I can fight that battle within myself, so I now need to leave, which she does.
And so, Dillon, like, what are your overall feelings about the episodes?
I very rarely, just as a director and a writer, because I'm so kind of attached to my own work, I'm very, very rarely happy with my work, believe it or not. I always tend to find something that I don't like or that I nitpick or whatever, and it's all a learning experience, but I have a hard time kind of being satisfied with the work that I do. This episode, when I watched it, was the first time in my life where I watched from beginning to end an episode as a fan and not as like an overly critical director and writer, and I loved it. The way that it went from script to screen worked better than I could have hoped. Like some of the things in the script that I kind of wanted to do but didn't think would worked so much better because we had the cast and crew were unreal. Like it was just this, I literally call it this, it's this band of misfits coming together, all from different levels of experience. Like we have some people who are veterans in the industry, we have some people, this is their first shoot. And everybody was respectful of it, everybody learned, everybody taught, and it made this atmosphere of the set so welcoming and non-toxic that everybody was at their best because they knew that they didn't have to worry about other stuff. They didn't have to worry about politics or crappy attitudes or assholes. Like they could focus on what we were doing. And this episode's a prime example of that because there's so much emotional baggage for Phoebe carrying it on her own, you know, and I think the cast and crew gave her that space to do it in the best way she possibly could. But without that, you know, if you're dealing with like bad attitudes or like crappy people, you just can't get there. So my overall thought on the episode is one, I love it. I think it's a really cool kind of like almost bottle episode of we're never leaving the Hatfield home for this episode. This is where the story takes place. But it was also an example of how good of a cast and crew we had in an atmosphere to be able to make art this way and really punch above our weight class in a huge way. So I love it. I'm very happy with it.
Dillon, I absolutely love the episode. I love the parallels, like again, between Chloe and Ryan, who are both struggling, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
We have these new villains of Hanlon Kane, scariest guy I've ever seen in my friggin' life, and his like hilarious group of misfits. You killed off Danielle, which was very hard for me, but I understand why you did it so that we can propel Chloe into the world of The Last Divide. I loved it so much. You should be so proud of yourself. I hope you are. I don't know if I can wait a whole week to watch the second episode.
Oh, just watch it now then.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that then.
Cool. Yeah, why not? Yeah, that's how this works, right? Yeah, we'll bring it up. Okay, cool. Next week I'm very excited because we get to talk about probably one of my favorite bits of the show, which is the epic bar fight between. Well, I'll wait until next week to talk about it. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. That was a hoot. Do you want to talk about 8-year-old me being excited? Yeah, that bar fight.